Rotary District 5150 is proud to offer another online learning and leadership development presentation, Rotary Peace Fellowship. Peace Fellowships are an important mission of the Rotary Foundation. Learn how you and your club can help find and nominate persons for fully paid college degree programs in peace building and conflict resolution at various universities around the globe.
Hello, Rotarians. Hey, I'm happy to be with you here today to make a presentation on the Rotary Peace Center Fellowships. I've had the pleasure of being attached to the district staff as the chair for the Peace Center Fellowships for about the past year and a half. I've learned a lot about the Peace Center Fellowships. I must admit, a lot of it includes things that I didn't know before I took the job. I think that oftentimes the Peace Center Fellowships aren't discussed much in the Rotary meetings. I've been a Rotarian for a long time, probably longer than most of you. And I had never heard it discussed in the meetings before, but occasionally I would see it mentioned in places like the Rotarian magazine. Once I found out about it, I decided, there's something here that I think every Rotarian and every club might be able to put into action, but that's up to you. At any rate, there's an opportunity here for you if you want to accept it. The Peace Center Fellowships are one of the many programs sponsored by the Rotary Foundation. And as you know, Rotary has had 6 areas of focus that generally define the scope of what they want various foundation programs to do with the money that they spend on it. And I want to go through those 6. Actually, there's 7 now because there's a brand new one. And I want to mention one that I think everyone is pretty familiar with, and that's fighting disease. If I could see you right now and I ask you, what's an example of a Rotary Foundation program involving fighting disease, I know you would say Polio Plus. Good for you. And you'd get an A. Polio Plus is a fantastic program. Rotary Foundation and Rotarians in general have put a lot of effort into that, spent a lot of money on it to eradicate polio. Yeah, I know we're only about this close as the gentlemen and women in the advertising for the foundation indicate over the past couple of years. But we'll get there. We know every time the number of new cases in polio goes down that we're winning, and we will win. The year is coming when there will be 0 new cases. So that's a great example of a Rotary Foundation program. The others, and I'm not going to go into detail on all of those, but maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, water and sanitation, growing local economies. Hey, here's a brand new one that just made the list several months ago, but I know we're going to hear a lot more about what we do with the environment. And so we get to building peace and resolving conflicts, which is where the fellowship program falls. The Rotary Foundation has a strategy that they adopted some time ago. The fellowships, by the way, has been a program in operation since 2002. So we got an 18-year history with this. And incidentally, another thing too, when we talk about these fellowships, don't confuse them, please, with the other things that Rotary has done, such as the ambassadorial scholarships or the other scholarships that districts and clubs sometimes get involved with. This is a totally different kind of scholarship. The strategy was, let's recruit a cadre of very capable people. I mean, very exceptional people who we will then send to universities to learn about peace building and conflict resolution. Why? Well, once they have been trained in this, they are not going to become employees of Rotary battling peace problems on the far-flung continents of the world. They're going to be working for various countries and non-governmental organizations and various corporate opportunities and so forth that are involved with building peace. Like I say, that's that's what we're doing. Again, to recap, we'll be very selective in finding the people we want for the programs. We'll send them to specific universities. I'll tell you about those in a moment. And then with that training, there'll be very desirable hires for people in governments and NGOs and so forth who can use them to build peace and to resolve conflicts. Here is what we're doing at the universities. The fellowships are divided into two separate categories. The first category is those applicants who want to get a master's degree, want to earn a master's degree in peace building and conflict resolution topics. There's a number of universities around the world that do handle those particular topics. It's not something that they just created for Rotary. The length of time that it takes to get that master's degree, depending upon the universities they go to, it's either going to be 17 months or up to a maximum of 24 months. Here's the first one I want to mention. There's no more than one in any one country, and the one in the United States is a collaborative opportunity done by Duke and University of North Carolina. They are geographically very close together. Incidentally, some of you may recall that the University of California, Berkeley, it was at one time a Rotary Peace Center. That changed some years ago, but right now it's Duke and UNC. In England, there's the University of Bradford. If you're familiar with it, or if you're not, if you drew a straight line between London and Glasgow, it's about halfway up there in Yorkshire. It has one of the oldest of all universities, oldest peace program that there are. Well, I'll try to talk some more about Bradford if I get the opportunity here. Another one is Uppsala University in Sweden, which incidentally is the oldest university we have in our group. They're getting close to celebrating their 600th birthday. Queensland University in Australia, and the International Christian University in Japan. I had not heard of the International Christian University prior to my taking this district role, but did some checking on it. It's a totally non-denominational university in Tokyo, Japan. To me, the significant thing was that university was created and erected in 1949 in Tokyo. Can you imagine what life was like in Tokyo, Japan in 1949 after 4 years of such a crushing, terrible war that they went through and being so terribly defeated, with cities destroyed and so on. But to create a university that is going to become an important sponsor of peace building programs for the world. So these are the universities that a person can apply for, and they may not apply to go to a university if it's in the country in which they reside. The other opportunity, other than the master's degree, is what we call a professional peace studies certificate. This takes 1 year in total, and it works like this. A candidate selected for that, an applicant who's approved and goes to one of these universities, they'll spend 10 weeks on site. For most of that 10 weeks, they're going to be getting training from some professors and academy people who are very experienced in the whole business of peace building. They're also going to get opportunities to go on actual field sites. If you went to the Bradford, for example, I know they send some of their students to places like the World Court in The Hague, or also down to certain areas in Africa that have peace problems and conflict that needs to be resolved. So it's a 1 year program in total. So you spend 10 weeks on site, then you go back home. Now, when you were at the university, you presented a peace concept that you wanted to enact once you got back home. Now's your time when you get back home. You go about building on that. You're in very frequent contact with your professors and others back at the university. At the end of your year, you come back to the university for 1 week and you present your plan, your peace concept what it was all about, what you did to make it happen. And watching you at that time are the students who are arriving for the next year's Peace Studies Certificate Program. The universities are in Bangkok, Thailand, the Chulalongkorn University, another great university. It dates back to about 1880, 1890. It was founded especially to be a university built and operating on Western university standards. And this is a brand new one. This is our first year to include Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda, Sub-Saharan Africa. Didn't know much about it, but I was making a presentation of this to one of the clubs in Southern Marin earlier this year. Darn if there wasn't someone in the group there that day who was from Uganda, and he told me a lot about Makerere. He said it's highly respected. Its students are not just African, they come from all over, and they have about 40,000 students there. So these are the schools that we work with. The Rotary Peace Fellows then, once they have their master's degree or their peace certificate, then they're expected to go out and work to put what they've learned to action. Let's take a look at a map here. And I'm going to have to take a close look at my screen to see this here, because I know it's a little bit faint. But for what this is showing on this Mercator map is that, for example, down here in the area of southern Brazil and Paraguay, there are 42 Rotary Peace Fellows currently at work doing what they learned in our fellowships. Over in the area of South Africa, Lesotho, Namibia, there are 12. Over here near Mumbai, India, southern tip of India, 18. 82 over here in the area of Chad, Mali, Nigeria. And by the way, in the United States, there are 193 at work somewhere in the United States. Many of them are working for non-governmental organizations. 36% of when this survey was taken recently are working for NGOs. NGOs such as Amnesty International, as an example. I know you've heard of them. Oxfam, that's a UK based NGO, but it has dealt for many, many years with famine situations throughout the world. International Red Cross, and so on and so on. There are literally hundreds of those. So more than a third of the graduates are currently working for NGOs. 15 are working for the agencies of various governments. 8% are teaching, 6% working at the United Nations, 3% are working in police and law enforcement. I hope you remember reading, as I did several years ago in the Rotarian magazine, about a police officer in Philadelphia who was a graduate of the Peace Certificate Program at Chulalongkorn. This officer, his last name is Pace. The article that was presented in the magazine talked about the fact that when he got back to Philadelphia doing his work on the streets and various other aspects of his work as a policeman, he was much better able, he said, to be able to resolve conflicts, to help people manage their anger, to do what was required to end up with a peaceful situation. I asked him, because I telephoned him, incidentally. I telephoned the Philadelphia Police Department. I told him who I was and who I wanted to speak to. And sure enough, a couple days later, he called me and we had a nice chat. I remember I said, when I spoke to him, I said, "Good morning, Lieutenant Pace." And he said, "Well, good morning." He said, "However, I'd like to correct you on something. I'm no longer Lieutenant Pace. Since I've been to the Rotary program, I've been promoted twice. I'm now Inspector Pace." Well, I think what he was trying to tell me was that the time that he had spent with Rotary away from his police force was time that his superiors in the Philadelphia police force thought was quite well spent. If you know policemen, or maybe some of you are policemen or have been police, you know, one of the things that police are often proud to say is that they've been to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. It's taught there. I believe it's a 10-week course, and it's kind of a really a high accomplishment in the career of a policeman. He's been to that course, and he said it's wonderful too. But he said certainly what Rotary taught him does not take second place to it. He said what Rotary is doing is really great. I couldn't help but think about this too, in view of the many times that we've seen law enforcement mentioned in the papers recently. And when we get to talking about how you might find people who ought to apply for a Rotary Fellowship, I hope you'll include some of the people that you might know who are involved with law enforcement. So these are where they work. A few important details. If you want to apply for a fellowship, you cannot be an active Rotarian. You cannot be a close family member. So unfortunately, if you're thinking at this point in my talk, I bet my son or my granddaughter could apply for this. Sorry, you can't. I've been asked why, and the best reason I can think of is, for American Rotarians at least, is the Internal Revenue Service would probably be very critical of you taking tax-deductible donations to someone who ends up paying for a fellowship. Applications, if you know someone, whether they're here or elsewhere, they can submit their application through any Rotary district. It doesn't matter where they live. Last year, for example, one of the applications that we received was from a woman in the Dominican Republic. No problem. For whatever reason, she couldn't work with the Rotarians down there. She came to my attention. I said, hey, we'll take care of it. And so we were happy to do that. For the people who are considered for the fellowships, you know, when the team back in Evanston gets together and they look at all the applications that come in each May 31, that's the due date, they're looking for a lot of things. And one of the things they're looking for is at least 3 to 5 years of actual experience, full-time experience, either paid or voluntary, in a position that involves keeping the peace or resolving conflicts. I think what they're trying to do is to say that they don't want someone who has never worked in the area of peace or conflict management to say, this sounds like a great fellowship. I think I'm going to apply for this. We don't want that. For one thing, once people have gone through the fellowship, they're not contractually obligated to Rotary to take what we've helped them to learn and go to work for an NGO or a government somewhere. We want people who already have skin in the game before they apply. There's no specific age requirement. It's normally in the 35 to 55 age range. All classes, regardless of where they are located, are taught in English. We do recommend a second language fluency. RI will provide up to 130 fellowships annually. 130 fellowships. If we can find the right people, the people that meet our requirements, and incidentally, they also have to meet the requirements of the standards of the university for which they want to go. If we can find the people, we are prepared to award up to 130 fellowships. And this is really great. It's fully funded. It's endowed. I know in your clubs, you've probably been involved with some projects that involved foundation funds where you had to do some matching. It's not required here. And if a district or a club wants to make a contribution to the fellowship funds, that's wonderful. Your money will be welcome, but it's not a requirement in order to get the fellowship. So what does our funding cover? Essentially, all of the normal expenses that a person might be required to have, including getting to there and back, whether they're going to Bangkok or Bradford, England, or wherever. And I give credit for what I think is a bold decision here. You know, they're spending the foundation is spending about $4 million per year on this program. I know I gave this talk once, and someone in my audience remarked that, you know, considering what the foundation spends to do good each year, that's almost chump change. And I don't regard it as chump change. It's any dollars that the foundation spent is very carefully spent, and they spend it wisely. But here's where it really makes an impact. If you think that out of that $4 million, if you divide it up amongst the various people who receive fellowships, the amount of money spent on any one Peace Center fellow will probably be more than Rotary spends on any other single individual in that year. And consequently, it has to be wisely done. And it brings up the whole subject of peace metrics, which that is a science that goes beyond my pay grade to do, but I know that the people back in the foundation are working on this. You know, with the Polio Plus, it was an easy thing to check the number of new polio cases each year, and it tells you whether or not the money you spent on Polio Plus that year was working or not. How do you do that with a peace program like this? It can be done, and it is being done. I'm confident that the money is being well spent. So here are some important dates, and this is for the 2022 to 23 school year. We have to work about a year in advance on all of this. So in essence, this is for applications that would be due next May 31 and starting in the summer of the year after that. So applications will become available. We can't even look at them until April 1. What I'm asking you to do, if you know people in your club, people in your people in your neighborhood, anyone who's a good applicant for this, let me know by April 1 at least about this. Call me and talk to me about it. First of all, I'll be glad to talk to that person wherever they are in their decision process to try to help them understand what the fellowship program is. And also that when the applications are due, they're due May 31, and these are not applications that you can sit down at 11 o'clock the night before and fill it out and get it post-stamped someplace. The applications that I saw this past year were running in the 25 to 50 page range for each. Once those applications are sent in to Rotary on May 31, then those who wish to have our district endorse them, we will conduct interviews with those applicants in early June. And whether or not you or your club submitted applications, if you have an interest in helping with the interviews, let me know. I'll be glad to see what we can work out. Let's see, make it go. Here we go. Okay, so what do you do next? Okay, you got your paper and pencil out, you're ready to write. This is really important. Here's the very first thing I want you to do. Yeah, be proud. How many organizations do you belong to that are currently trying to help the world with a program like this? I don't know of any others. So stick your chest out, be proud. Let your friends and neighbors know about this great program. Let your new members in your club. I know you have some sort of way of bringing your new members up to date on what Rotary is. Give them information about the Rotary Peace Fellowships. Someone out there watching and listening today is involved with new membership, with recruiting new members for your club. Whatever list of fantastic features and selling points you have for joining your club, add the fellowship program to it too. Teach your club's members about their peace centers. Look for applicants. They're everywhere. Let me give you an example of this. One of the applicants that I'm really high on that applied this past year is a teacher from a Bay Area school. He's a very special teacher. He teaches incarcerated kids in a juvenile detention center. He's really dedicated to trying to help these people. He's told me how hard it is to make progress with these kids. He went on his own dime about 2 or 3 years ago to an international peace conference in India. While he was there, at a break time when there was a chance to grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever they were drinking there, he was chatting with another person, a gentleman from Australia, who turned out to be a Rotarian from Australia. Listening to this applicant talk, he said to him, "Why don't you apply for a Rotary Peace Center fellowship?" Hey, that's all it took, you know. And I'm confident this gentleman is going to be picked, and I'm going to be able to announce his name and tell you more about him. But I look for people wherever I go. If you look for people wherever you go, we're spreading the area that we have in order to find great applicants. That's what I'm asking you to do. Here's something you might do. Appoint a peace center for your chair. It may be the first time your club has had one. And if you do appoint a peace center chair, let me know who he or she is, and I'll do my best to work with them and keep them up to date. And schedule a Rotary Peace Center speaking for a club meeting once we're past this COVID business. At the moment, that would be me, and it would be a talk somewhere along the lines of what you just sat through here with me. Finally, we started out talking really about Polio Plus. And so with that in mind, some of you may recognize the picture of this gentleman. He's someone I've known for 25 or 30 years. He's past district governor and past president of the Rotary Club of Novato, Russ Ketron. He's also been a major worker in our district in promoting the Polio Plus program. If you know him well, you may know that as a child, he was afflicted with polio. He's got skin in the game. He knows what it's like. And so he put so much effort into it. At a meeting, a district staff meeting in October of 2018, I was just newly arrived, and I was asked to stand up and just give a brief talk about what I thought I was going to do during the year. And when I was done, Russ raised his hand, stood up, and here's what he said. The day will come when Rotary will have successfully completed its Polio Plus mission. And then a signature goal of Rotarians will be peace. Thank you, Russ. Thank you all for listening. If you know someone who should apply, you want a speaker for your club, give me a call. Here's my name, here's my email, here's my phone number. I'm glad to be a Rotarian, and glad to be a Rotarian in this great district with you. Thank you very much.